Welcome, Pavel. So as soon as I was reading your bio and listening to your early interviews, I was so amazed because you're a music genius pretty much. And I thought my question would be stopped by then because there's nothing really could be asked to a music genius. So,
Yes, go on. I like your compliments very much. So
you started, first of all, your music journey with a very accidental music test by a school committee. And also you did not actually prepare for your music audition at Moscow Conservatory. So that was very unusual.
do you mean my first steps in music?
Yeah.
Because it happened by accident. Everybody already knows that. But it was a part of a state policy to check all children for their gifts. And I remember this upright piano, and they played something and they clapped something, and I was able to repeat that. And so this was the beginning. My parents were musically very gifted. They were not musicians, but gifted. It means that they were sensitive to music. They knew some tunes, they knew some operas, etc. And so it started, and I entered Central Music School, which is famous. So for children, it started with Baroque period, not much earlier, and then of course Romantic period, and then 20th century. So it was a lot of wonderful, beautiful music. And I remember we had a library, with these heavy books with music, operas, clavier, etc. And so I was carrying it home and was reading from the first to the last page. That was, my mom thought I was practicing. So because I was playing, I was making some noises, but it was all Traviata, for example, something which I imitate practicing because I didn't like to practice. Now I pay off.
How long did you actually practice every day?
Not every day, and not much. And I don't know how it's necessary, because if you overstay with practicing, you don't sound fresh. You lose your interest to something which is supposed to have a pleasure. Yeah, you cannot do some good things against your own wish. Of course, there is this stretching exercise. Parents push you to practice, and you sometimes reject. But then at some point, children become very interested in that. Yeah, so I didn't skip my practicing because I already wanted to do something good. At some point, I didn't need to be pestered.
So you never have those rebel moments, which you...
I had, of course, and my mom was crying, I was crying. At some point, it was very, very sour with pushing myself, but still, again, I was deceiving everybody by sight reading things which were not supposed to be my repertoire. Because it was much more interesting just to go with so much music, excellent music, some symphonies all through.
I mean, those are great works too. So.
They are better works than some Cherny etudes, of course. Yeah.
You were later invited to join the faculty after you graduated. Did you have that cultivated mindset of looking at music education from both a student and teacher perspective?
We had a course when I was a conservatory student. We had a course how to teach, and I had very good teachers there. So, but I was absolutely not prepared to what I had with very talented students in my studio in Dorensky. My professor Dorensky's studio, there were a lot of very talented people, and as soon as I graduated from the conservatory, I started to teach, and of course Dorensky had a lot of risk with me. Unfortunately, his excellent, wonderful assistant, Boris Abramovich Shatskis, who was his friend and who really was very efficient. He taught in the Conservatory, also in the college, which is called Мерзляковское училище. So he was killed in a car accident in '85 in May, and it was a very, very, very tragic thing. But Dorensky needed someone in his studio to help, so he chosen me, and that's why I owe him a lot. But I was not prepared. Probably I had good ears and I could sometimes speak in a poetic way, but I was not prepared to many things which pedagogy includes, like respecting or understanding different types of personalities, ambitious personalities, accepting different types of performing styles, not doing I was quite tough in the beginning, but now I'm different. Now I understand that you can do the same result with much better weapons, I would say. So it took me many years to understand. But I started in '87.
Wow. Yeah, I realized that your professor is very, very respectful educator in the music scene, and he has cultivated so many music concert masters like you also, and they are very active in the concert programs. So, what are the key aspects that you think it's worth to bring up and to continue to leave his legacy?
You know, he was an artist. He was not a very meticulous teacher, I would say, very, very detailed. No, he wanted a person to sound natural on stage and also bright on stage. So he was a stage person. He himself, Dorensky, probably he inherited that from Grigory Ginsburg, who was his teacher, and and Glenweiser, who was his teacher. So it was a very, very long tradition of teaching. But you know, every individuality was different and acceptable. That's what my professor was, because he never pushed his students to imitate others. So everybody was different in his studio. The only thing he really wanted is to everybody to be bright. Stage means you have, now I would translate it in my own language. You have to sell things which nobody needs. Yeah, so by doing it very pale or probably without energy, you will not sell anything. So be active on stage. I remember he was always pestering me because I was trying to do a lot of depth, a lot of passive melancholy, etc., and he hated that. Yeah, and with time I started to play more open and more bright to him especially, and it was a very, very good and necessary habit. Or he will shout out at me again if I play the way I want. So I started to make it more dramatic or probably more bright.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, but now I also ask my students to sound clear. This is communication. You need to be heard.
I have heard so many my friends in the conservatories that praise you have such a talent to diagnose technical and able to solve the technical for younger students and younger artists. In your experiences, what are the common mistakes or common challenge that students are facing?
There are very many. First of all, I'm not very strong in technique. So I can give some good advice from time to time, but I don't have a thorough. You know, usually I work with people who are 18 and older. So at 18, you have already to have established technical habits. Of course, you can improve them even at 20 or 30 something, but it will be a different thing. What you have to have, you will need to make it early at school. So that's why it is not my favorite job to all these things. But the common things are to connect your technique to poetic reality. So what we have can be divided in two, artificially divided. One is technical thing, and another is poetic reality. Or the one doesn't exist without other. We cannot do the best intentions to sound poetic. Poetic, I mean, in a very, very, very wide meaning of this word. You cannot sound poetic without good technique. But you don't have to show your technique, because it will be very boring.
But sometimes we just have to always reconnect with our body as well, because we have to follow our nature of the body and nature of the physics in order to play the music in order to play the arts?
You know, you need to develop your zone of comfort into new music, encompassing new and new and new music, turning it into comfortable. Because if you stay with your own technique and you don't improve it, you will not get anything difficult. So the way to learn something new is to stretch yourself. So that's why there is no pain, no gain. That's very good about technique. Yeah, and I have many students, they approach to me and they say, I cannot play this etude of Chopin. Tomorrow I have a recital and I'm not yet ready. So I just exaggerating slightly, but just slightly. So how to make it more? Just never have deadlines with etudes. But you should make yourself. Try to find your own understanding things, to connect your ears with that. Try to make it some preliminary preemptive exercises with that. That's an interesting thing. Also, you learn yourself. You don't teach yourself, but you learn yourself, how you behave physically. And again, when you are young, it is easier to make than when you are after some age.
Yeah, I think there's always somehow some willpowers to overcome those psychological hurdles.
That's another absolutely different from technical things, because technical things based on your muscle memory and coordination. So it needs a lot of repetition.
Yeah,
But willpower is absolutely different, and also stage fright is absolutely different. No matter how you prepared, you can have a failure on stage, because stage is not very natural for many people, for many characters. I've had very, very few people in my experience who were absolutely happy on stage. I'm happy, I have wings, I have champagne instead of my blood, and I want to go on stage. So I've had that, and they were absolutely wonderful on stage.
Wow.
They were presenting, they became big people in our art. So, but the majority is not like that. Majority is really suffering, including me. I'm not a stage person at all. And so sometimes I can do good things, but it comes with a lot of dedication, a lot of focus. And that's why I prefer to play chamber music or vocal concerts much more than to play solo. Because I feel absolutely at home. Yeah, I need to support somebody. I have the score in front of me. And so for me, it makes better results.
Yeah. You know, actors, when they play, a very successful play, they usually do like 7 shows per week, and then they do in the same place. And I think as musicians, we are more lucky to play with.
Yeah, it is a trainable thing.
theaters.
More you train it, more you train it, more better results you have. If you have one recital in a year, then you simply fail, almost unavoidably. By the way, that's a big problem, because in my time when I was a student, we had a lot of exams, a lot of juries, and we had to, even at school, we had to present at least 4 different programs, 15 minutes long, in a year, and to play it in 4 different exams. And sometimes we were sent to play in different places. We had a lot of concerts. We were exposed every week. You had to play somewhere, both when I was a schoolboy and when I was a student. And so now I miss it. I have students, and they have to play. Actually, they can choose to play more, but they can. They have promotionals just once a year. That's absolutely not enough. Not enough. No.
Did you like that high frequency of playing?
When I play a lot, of course I play. Usually, if I have 3 concerts in a row, the third will be the best. Usually, it's not absolutely 100% true, but it can be better, because I simply I become friends with myself as a body. In the first, my body rejects and resists.
Did you have like some mantra you talk to yourself, or some routines?
No. I just try to change my own way of understanding the fear. Stage fright is not always a negative thing. I accept stage fright allows me to do something very unusual. So I compare stage fright to a holiday. We have weekdays and we have weekends. So it is a weekend, you can do something special, because you feel special. Also, for me, a stage fright is a very egoistic thing too. So if you suddenly focus, music is more interesting. It's been there for centuries. Why do you show yourself with your fears? Who needs them? So it helps me too. Pay attention to what you're playing.
Yeah, and also sometimes thinking that, oh, it doesn't ever exist 500 years before, and maybe the music scene won't be there 500 years later. Like, why should we get nervous?
I talked with a singer, and she was reaching some age when she was, at some vocal art is very cruel art because it's sometimes, especially for female voices, when they reach some age, they usually don't sing anymore. It doesn't sound beautiful. So she was reaching this age, and she said, I like my concerts. I'm very prone to stage fright, but I like it because every concert can be the last one. And I realized that's very wise. Every concert can be the last, even if you are not a singer. Why not to try to focus yourself into that?
Wow,
That's clever.
it is. Wow. Okay, I think I'm going to adjust my mindset from now on a little bit. As you're teaching now at Boston University and New England Conservatory,
And Moscow Tchaikovsky Conservatory.
yeah, so with so many students, and I know you always tour with master classes. So have you discovered anything that different students from different backgrounds and cultures approach piano differently?
Probably not terribly much to prevent from understanding. So what really distracts me is the lack of knowledge, because our profession should encompass very, very similar things. Be it in China, be it in Russia, be it in America, there are the same composers, the same music, and also the same expectancies from the audience. And so it means that you need to know who is Bach, who is Beethoven, who is Chopin, who is Rachmaninoff, etc. So this universal island of knowledge is very necessary. So when you don't have this knowledge, then it irritates. But it can happen anywhere,
Yeah.
with any students from anywhere. So for me, this is much more important than where the student from.
When you were teaching at Moscow Conservatory, have you ever thought about you gonna teaching abroad?
No, I was teaching. I had a lot of master classes in many countries, in Russian, in English, and once in French, even in Japan, in Ireland, in many countries. But when I applied for BU, there was some advice to invitation. Please apply. We have a position here. I didn't think seriously about that, and then suddenly I won that. I got this position, and this changed my life completely.
Wow. Do you think that approach with so many different background students is sometimes a disadvantage to you?
No. It's absolutely wonderful. I find different students from different backgrounds wonderful. I'm interested, I'm curious. I want to see the general things, the individual things. But I always believe that individual things are much more important than where are you from. I see Chinese students there, many, the majority in both schools are Chinese students, and they're very different. Very different, and some absolutely intellectual, some very, very gifted with physical things. So it's interesting thing. As a teacher, I see no difference. I don't see. By the way, the same difference is with boys or girls. I don't care. The same individually gifted, anything goes.
Wow. What are some of the moments that actually inspire you as a teacher?
Yeah, my students inspire me as a teacher. There are many students who are excellent and curious, and even those who are not the best, they can give you much pleasure because they are curious, they are doing their best. So it's wonderful.
Yeah. So I think the sense of being curiosity is very important.
Absolutely, that's the first thing. The first, love, curiosity is better than gift. The gift is something which is wonderful because it smooths everything. But if a person is curious and love that, that's much more important because we don't need performers only. This art is alive not because of performance, but because of those who love it, of listeners, of the audience. And so I can convert people who are not very successful in performing into listeners. Also, we don't have them.
That's true.
Yeah, you can go to China and sometimes you can see listeners, but in America it's quite a sad situation, especially after COVID.